ABC 7 Extra.
Welcome to ABC 7 Extra Sunday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Ross. These continue to be challenging times for El Paso's Big Three school districts. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's school choice initiative is inching closer to becoming reality. The plan would use taxpayer dollars to allow parents to send their child to a private school. There is a school funding bill in the Texas House that would give districts a $220 increase in base funding per student, something public education advocates say isn't nearly enough to help districts which are struggling financially. Add to that declining student enrollment, employee layoffs, stagnant pay for teachers, and inflation that's led to higher costs for districts since the COVID-19 pandemic ended. Tonight we explore the tough choices the Big Three school districts in El Paso are making now and will have to make in the future. Joining me now, Diana Saavedra, Superintendent for the El Paso School District, James Vasquez, Interim Superintendent for the Socorro School District, and Lindley Camburn, the Chief Financial and Operational Officer for the Isleta School District. Isleta Superintendent Xavier de la Torre could not be with us tonight. Thank you all for coming on the program. I do appreciate it. Let's start by giving our viewers a baseline of the challenges you have as you're working to set next year's school budgets. All of you are dealing with declining enrollment, correct? So how many students are in your district? What deficit are you looking at? Superintendent Saavedra, let's start with you.
Right. Well, we currently have a little over 47,000 students. It's about 1,400 students. We lose about 1,000 students year over year. This year there's an additional 400, a loss of an additional 400 students. So when we think about projecting our budget outlook for the coming year, we're looking at a revenue shortfall coming in from the state of about $20 million. And even with the 220 increase in the basic allotment.
If that comes to pass.
If that comes to pass, again, it's still a $20 million revenue shortfall. So that means that we're building our budget with $20 million less than we started building our budget the year before. Bottom line is, when we look at declining enrollment, when we look at the weighted funding that comes when we lose students, when we look at our ADA, we're starting to build our budget with close to a $23 million shortfall.
All right. Superintendent Vasquez, what's your situation in Socorro?
So we currently have about 46,600 students. That's down about 600 students from last year, and we're projecting about a 700 student loss for the coming school year. That being said, we do need to cut about $38 million. As you've heard, we've had to reduce staff for next school year. Between that and other cuts that we've made, that we still have about an $8 million gap. This money that's being proposed so far, if it is the $220 extra, that would bring us about $13 million additional dollars. $5 million of that is probably going to be earmarked for teacher salaries, which would leave us with about $8 million, which could close that gap. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
All right. Ms. Camburn, Isleta's situation?
Like El Paso Independent School District, we expect to lose about 1,000 students. And so the budget deficit we adopted last year was $18 million. I foresee that it'll be closer to $25 million this year. And of course, we do have concerns as well, even with the $220 increase to the basic allotment. If 40% of that goes to teacher salaries on the schedule, it's going to exacerbate the problem for all of us.
And let's dive a little deeper now into that funding per student. It's been 5 years since the state gave an increase to the per student pay, or I should say the finance, the increase in student funding. So knowing that there was not enough state money to help cover rising per student costs, what kind of financial decisions could have been made in your districts knowing that information? Now, Superintendent Saavedra, I realize you didn't start an EPISD until 2022, but I'm sure you were brought up to speed on the district's financial situation when you became superintendent, so I'll start with you.
Right. Well, we've made some significant decisions over the last 3 years. You know, we've reduced central office positions by 121 positions, close to $6 million worth of positions. We've continued to reevaluate our staffing models at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. And we've looked at, you know, where are all of the inefficiencies that we have in our budget that allow us to continue to bring the board a balanced budget. In the 3 years that I've been the superintendent in El Paso ISD, we've passed 2 balanced budgets, and this current fiscal year is the first year that we've gone to the board with a $12 million, you know, budget deficit. We've got 82 days in our fund balance. So in addition to the cuts that we've made, I walked into the school district with 33 surplus properties. We've been able to offload 16 of those surplus properties, which have brought in about $22 million to the school district. We have another $10 million on deck. So that has certainly helped us, you know, year over year, you know, as we look at our budget outlook. When we think about what we're looking at as we think about the next fiscal year and building our budget, as I shared with you, we're making some really difficult decisions. In El Paso ISD, with the support of the board, they approved recommendations for the closing of 8 elementary schools, 6 that will close at the end of this school year, and 2 that will close in the next school year. And that was to offset having to reduce programming, increase class sizes, or possibly begin to lay off employees. And so, whereas I shared with you that we're starting to build a budget with a $23 million shortfall, that would have been $38 million had we not made the decision to move forward with the school closure plan. We're also looking at moving to 7 of 8 for teachers at the secondary level. And those 2 moves alone will save the school district close to $16 million.
Now, Superintendent Vasquez, you've been with the Socorro District as acting superintendent for almost a year. But you have previous experience in both the El Paso and Isleta districts, and part of that time as an assistant superintendent with Isleta. How are you all responding to this ongoing financial crisis in your district?
Yeah, you know, we're having to make some difficult decisions. As Ms. Saavedra said, you know, the board just recently approved us to have a reduction in force. So that was extremely difficult for everybody involved. So we're currently going through that process right now. Other things we've looked at even before this reduction in force, we were just through attrition, just closing positions. We've closed 2 cabinet level positions, some director positions, assistant director positions. Overall, we've reduced our workforce by about 8%, 10% of that coming from the central office and central support areas. So we're looking at those things. We're trying to, as much as possible, to keep it away from the classrooms, keep it away from our students in terms of programs and other things that we offer. But unfortunately, as the bulk of our entire budget comes from salaries, that's a place where we had to look first. Just because that's where we would get the most bang for our buck.
Now, Ms. Cameron, you've been the Chief Financial Officer for the Isleta District for the last 9 years. When did it become apparent in your district that it was going to face some financial difficulties because of the lack of increase in state funding per student? And why didn't the Board of Trustees respond to that sooner?
Well, I think that's a great question, but one of the elements you're leaving out is the 20% inflation we've also experienced since 2019. The district, under Dr. De La Torre's leadership since 2014, has been right-sizing. So we've gone from 62 active campuses down to 49, and like our peers, although we're in declining enrollment now, we've actually been in declining enrollment for that entire period. So knowing today if we knew in the past what we know today, we might have made different decisions. But the information available to the board in the last fiscal year or in the 2023 budget session, it didn't change. It wouldn't change the decisions because our boards consider employees, not just teachers, nurses, and librarians and their welfare, but custodians, bus drivers, child nutrition workers. And so With the information available today, yes, some of those decisions might be different, but given the information they had at the time, I don't think they would have made different decisions. I think they would have believed that with the state's responsibility to fund education appropriately, that they would do so. And yet after 4 special sessions, ending in November of 2023, the state failed to take action, and we have all suffered from it.
Stay with us. We'll continue our discussion after the break. You're watching ABC 7 Extra Sunday.